Do you have two sheets? Just take the one.
What happened is
There were quite a few people
on
here
your
to listen and
recommendation,
not necessarily make a comment.
Okay.
We selected
A question for you. Is it permissible for me to assign
be the
part of my
architectural
time to Clayton Law?
firm for our new building.
Yeah, or
our
just-
AOC building.
If you got 3 minutes, 3
There
minutes.
were four
Okay.
Do you think he'll take longer?
firms,
He'll take longer than 3
Yeah,
I
minutes?
think Clayton would like more than 3, and so I was willing to share that with him.
Let's say half a minute. Okay. Yeah, just let me know whenever.
Thank you.
it went up
They
by
asked 3 o'clock.
Is that good?
450
I'm good with it.
Okay, we'll see.
on our evaluation. The other two firms were lower.
Okay, perfect.
It was close.
Okay. Just totally. Thank you. Mhm. Stop
Being awfully quiet.
this.
ready for the meeting.
We are.
We'll go ahead and what happened?
Hold on. Let me get Mary Boy in here. Commissioner Mary Boy, are you there?
Hello.
You move that. I can't see the
I can hear you just barely.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. We'll turn up the volume in here.
Okay. Well, good.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
I'll go ahead and open the floor or call the meeting to order at this time for the San Juan County Commissioners meeting. Time is 11:27. Still in the morning. We have a proposed agenda for the day. Any offer to say a opening prayer? He took it away from me. Now he's guilty, giving it back to me. Anyway, good morning and welcome to San Juan County Commission meeting. We'll go ahead and proceed with the calling the meeting to order. I said 11:27, and we have I believe we have a quorum. Mr. Mayor Boy is on online, and Mr. Adams and myself are present. And we have new addition, I guess. Lyman Duncan, clerk, county clerk. So, welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. McDonald, can you, I was saying, is there any volunteer to say the opening prayer? Sir? Thank you.
Our dear Heavenly Father, as we meet as concerned citizens and fellow servants, we invoke thy blessings as we meet to discuss concerns of our community and of our families. We thank thee very much for this beautiful land in which thou hast allowed us to live. We thank thee very much for each other, that we can be friendly and loving and thoughtful in the things that we do and say. Here at this time, we pray in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior and Redeemer. Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah. That, turn it over to Mr. McDonald to give us an overview of the proposed agenda.
I'll do that.
Excuse me.
Okay, on today's agenda for your approval, you've got on our consent agenda, you have the approval of the August 3rd, 2021 commission meeting minutes. You have the approval of the check registers for July 30th, 2021 through August 12th, 2021. You have approval of a small purchase orders for the CARES Act cots and sheltering equipment for $5,348.73. Item number 4, consideration and approval of an amendment to the existing contract, San Juan County Health Department tobacco contract FY21 through FY25 Amendment 1 between Department of Health and San Juan County. You've got consideration and approval of an amendment to existing contract, San Juan County Immunizations 2019 Amendment number 1. You've got number 6, ratification and approval of the Emergency Solutions Grant Amendment 1 with the State of Utah Department of Workforce Services, Housing and Community Development for rental assistance and homeless prevention. Got item number 7, consideration and approval of the purchase of 3 electronic message boards using CARES Act funds for a total of $49,248. Item number 8, consideration and approval of the Trail of the Ancients marketing and design for $1,500 to the National Travel Center, small purchase. Let's see if you're following along here. Let me spin this so that you can. Okay, so under recognitions, presentation, and informational items, we don't have anything today, but you do have a public hearing for the mid-year 2021 budget adjustments. This is consideration and approval of resolution 2021 mid-year budget adjustments for both revenue and expenses, including salary increases for county employees. This one will be presented by James Frankham, our interim clerk auditor, or used to be that anyways. Under business action items, number 10, you've got consideration and approval of the Public Health Emergency and Healthcare Preparedness Program, San Juan County FY22, contract between Utah Department of Health and San Juan County. Item 11, consideration and approval of San Juan County Health Department COVID-19 Health Disparities and Advancing Health Equity contract between Utah Department of Health and San Juan County. Item number 12, consideration and approval of San Juan County minimum performance standards for fiscal year 22. Item 13, consideration and approval of a subcontract agreement for Meals on Wheels vehicle. 14 is renewal of a LaSalle library lease agreement. On item 15, consideration and approval have a purchase of synthetic 5W40 CK-4 oil for restock. Item 16, consideration and approval of contract with William Cooper for San Juan County for 2021 redistricting services. Item 17, consideration and review of potential contract with William Cooper for redistricting. Those are two separate contracts on there. Item 18, consideration and adoption of an ordinance establishing and creating the formation of San Juan County Redistricting Commission. 19, consideration and approval of a purchase order for $23,400 using CARES Act funds for the San Juan County AED program. Consideration and approval of contract with Frontier Precision Inc. for GIS services for the Recorder's Office for $23,200 using CARES Act funds. Item 21. On here, let me spin this again. Item 21 is consideration and adoption of an ordinance amending the San Juan County Personnel Policy, Section 12, work hours. And the next one, consideration and adoption of an ordinance amending the San Juan County Personnel Policy, Section 16, miscellaneous. Item 23, consideration and adoption of an ordinance establishing the San Juan County credit card use policy. And then item 24, your last item on the agenda, other than commission reports, is consideration and approval of an overnight accommodation overlay application of Curtis Wells for Bird Company Real Estate. And this will be presented by Scott Burton, our planning and zoning. That, commissioners, is your agenda for today. A little bit lengthy.
Do I hear a motion for adoption
Motion.
agenda?
I'll second it.
Second by Bruce Adams. Any question? Comment? There be none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed, nay. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion carries. Next would be public comment.
Okay, public comments. I have a list of public comments on a sign-up sheet here. Hopefully you in the audience have signed up if you're wanting to make a public comment. If not, I still have this list available. We do have members online as well that will hear potential for public comments as well. So if you're online, go ahead and raise your hand. And we'll be able to recognize you online. And then those in the audience, I'll go through the list here and turn to you accordingly. Just as a reminder, public comments are 3 minutes apiece on there. Try not to be repetitive if possible. And then always just make sure that you try to remain courteous and kind in your remarks and in your comments. If not, we'll have TJ Adair escort you out, or we'll mute you online. We can't mute the audience members here that are live, but online we can mute you.
This is Lynette Clark, and I don't remember how to raise my hand. I can't find it, but I want to.
Can't find your hand? Oh,
Nope.
that's
They're
all
on the end
right.
of my arm, but I can't find it online.
Okay. We'll get to you. Thanks, but I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead. I'll begin here in the audience. The first one I've got is Clayton Long. Clayton, I believe somebody else has given up some of your time.
The package.
Yat Arnoldsko. Welcome. Ado commissioners dan Oslinigi. Shinat Ani dan Oslinigi. Yat Sitsale Kenneth, ha de shinta koyat e hawada dalsanta. Ado shana Willie do ha. Ado shanale Bruce. If you're a distant relative, we call him shanale. So, all right. So I have 2 forms here that I want to look at. This is the first one I just want to give to you. This is the audience one. So if anybody wants to take that, that'll be my little spill. This is going to be very, very positive. In my mind, this is a very positive thing that I want to share. This one's for commissioners. So out of all the positive things that I want to say, there is one negative that I want to point out. If you turn to the page, about page 3, the one that says 2020 proposed property tax increase. And if you go to about page 3, there's a section where it's kind of looks like a mountain. Okay. On that page, it says, you're thinking it. So I'm going to read that paragraph, and then I'm going to kind of make it a point, but then I'll flip to the positive after that. You're thinking it. So let's address it up front. Yes, the general fund will be paying for the lawsuits, litigations in which we have reacted an agreement, or those in which we are now required to pay. In the past, we have used portion of the general fund balance to cover those costs and continue to improve general government operations. The main thing is general funds, which is a tax that from our family, community members, and we use it for, taking care of lawsuits. And lawsuits are not just since the commissioners have come, but previous. And we even include people outside, like the Navajo Nation. And my plea is, let's make an agreement. Let's just decide today not have anything that is called lawsuits. It loses money for us. It does not make things right for us. It just creates more of a distance between anybody and everybody. And for our county, we got to think of ourselves like this page, one pager. And this is the positive.
That was it right there. So I think
All right.
somebody donate any time to him. You
I only take about 30 seconds of my time. I'll donate the rest of my time.
okay? So I've got feel like an auctioneer up here. 2 minutes additional.
I'm Wesley Hunt.
Yeah.
I give my time to play.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I mean, I only see it on TV, but thank you. So there's a picture. Pictures tell 1,000 words, okay? This is our home. To the east, we see the big mountain called the Ute Mountain. And in that Ute Mountain, we have family members over there called the Aneth community, Montezuma community. And then we go to the south, and there we have another community, East Nazbans, Red Mesa, Bluff, Mexican Water. All those are family members. And then we have Navajo Mountain, a beautiful, strong. Think of this as a hogan. Think of this as these are pillars. These are like logs in the hogan. That the mountains make up those things. And so we have Navajo Mountain, Monument Valley, and all of anything in between Mexican Hat. And then we have the La Salle Mountains, we have Monticello, and then we have kind of a middle place. We do have Blue Mountain there, but I want to call that the Fire. You see this family, you see these are like our father and mother. These commissioners are like father, mother, uncle, grandma, grandpa. Those are kind of like the head of the family. We're the children. And I like to make it simple because you can explain this to a kindergarten class, all right? The more we think like simple, the better our family grows and together, all right? And so our mom and dad, this is the vision. Number one, San Juan County SS. What's SS? Well, we ought to create a vision statement for us that is so beautiful that every person in the county would understand that idea. For me, if I was a commissioner, I would say self-sustaining. How can we, each one of us self-sustain, not only ourselves, but our family and our family, San Juan County family. And we would all talk about that day and night. It would be a 24-hour cause. And then we can say, how do we make that thing come alive? That becomes our mission. Well, I just wrote down 4 things. Number one, cash flow. How do we take care of all the money that's going in and out, in and out? If we can control that, we can have enough to be able to take care of all the needs of our family, yeah, our children. And then number, education. What a beautiful concept, because one of the circles in here says education is the answer to a lot of things, and that's true. We have a beautiful all the way higher education, Utah State University. Yeah, we have folks up north, but here in the county we have Utah State University. I love that university because their feet is down in Monument Valley, Montezuma Creek, and up here in Monticello. The next one is called wellness. Everybody is concerned about wellness. I'm concerned about wellness. I believe we can tackle that as one of our missions. Number 4 is a resource. When I talk about resource, I'm not talking about just the thing in the ground and Mother Earth. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about our children. They are the resources. And education, teach them how the cash flow goes, teach them how to educate themselves, all those things. If we just had a simple 4 sacred number, 4 is all we need. And then the resources goes into work also. And the last is what I call values. And this is probably the strongest one because we have laws that we go by. Laws in the home, laws in the community, laws in the county, laws all over, laws. My belief is the values is inside our hearts. How we treat one another is inside ourselves. If we can teach ourselves how to create and help one another by doing the handshake and all that, I believe we will change everybody's lives in this county. Well, I think that's about all I'm going to say. I think the time's up, right?
It is. Thank you, sir.
I heard that ding.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kat.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the next one, we've got Lynn Martin. Lynn, you promised me 30 seconds. Do I have to time that 30 seconds?
I agree with everything that Clayton is saying. I'd like you to recognize the fact that there is this reevaluation of property values is what is really hurting people. There's nobody I have spoken to that hasn't had their taxes that's off reservation raised by hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And there's all sorts of people out there who totally dislike everything that has happened because of that reevaluation. I'd like you to think in terms of tax rate, very small, reevaluation, very large, which means taxes went up a lot. So there are 2 ways to have you help us, and that is to reevaluate the tax rate and drop it so that we end up with the same taxes, or that you rescind the vote that you had, which was to reevaluate the properties. And every one of us represents multiple organizations, not just here. I represent San Juan Foundation as well as American Indian Services, as well as all that we have done in this county for years with the education.
Thanks, sir. Okay, the next one on here, we've got a Joe Mellon.
Good morning. It's good to be here. I'm here alongside my family, my friends, my neighbors. I'm here in solidarity to be with them, and we're protesting this massive increase in our taxes. which is completely massive and unpopular. I am not only representing myself here, but I'm the president of the Elk Meadows Property Association, and we just had a meeting, and this subject was brought up at our meeting, and I can verify that everybody feels the same way about this tax increase as we do. So what I would hope for, what we would hope for, is that we could find a way forward together. Clayton, beautiful. Thank you, sir. That was very beautiful. Lynn, everybody. Perhaps rescinding this unpopular bill and going back to the table and coming up with a better plan that we can all get behind would be certainly, I think all of us could appreciate that. And we appreciate you guys. And Bruce Adams, sir. So I think that's all I have to say, gentlemen, ladies. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thanks, sir. Okay, and the last one here in the audience is Wesley Hunt. All right, 100%. 100%, okay. Oh, that's fine. Go ahead, 1 minute. I didn't put all
Take less than 1 minute.
6 minutes on his.
Commissioners, you have a very difficult job. I'm Wesley Hunt. I've spent the summer working on the Indian Reservation, helping our students to be able to have internet so that we can have education when we can't attend personally in school. I understand, and I appreciate this. The thing I am concerned about is many, including myself, that live on a fixed income. I have not retired because I cannot afford to not work. And so even though I am way beyond the age of retirement, I am working because of the debt load. I would appreciate your consideration with what has been said. I honor you. I don't envy your job at all. And thank you so much.
Thanks, sir. Okay, that looks like all of the public comments we had here. Let's see, we did have, so going online, have Monet. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you can.
Okay, let's see here.
You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And good morning, commissioners. I just wish to briefly give you my comments on items number 15 and 16. Contract for William Cooper to prepare three redistricting plans for consideration. I would support you passing either 15 or 16 and not approving the item number 18. I don't think we need redistricting commission, but I'm mostly concerned with item number 24 on your agenda, which is the last item today, and that is approval of an overnight accommodation overlay zone in Spanish Valley in the Tangerine Lane area. And I sent a letter to you by email, which I hope will be included in the written minutes. I simply want to say that I'm in favor of having an overlay accommodation in that area. And I'm just concerned about the exactly who's applying for the overlay, because the 5 different property owners and Mr. Curtis Wells is, I wasn't sure who actually signed the application, but if it's bird real estate, I was wondering if you might want to investigate further as to if Mr. Wells is representing a buyer, such as a large hotel chain, or if he is representing, who is he representing, and why is he doing the application rather than the 5 owners making applications separately for overnight accommodations for their individual properties. I think that's the right area for overnight accommodations. As a resident of Spanish Valley, we've certainly had a lot of incursion of overnight rentals in our neighborhoods, which is the wrong way to go. And I'm glad that hopefully come to an end. I want to just remind you that in February, Mr. Lloyd Wilson had an informal meeting with members of the community out here about what they felt about overnight accommodation. And the overwhelming sentiment that came out of that was that people in the community want to see a smaller mom and pop kind of overnight accommodation rather than large hotel chains. So these mom and pop places could be a new brand for Spanish Valley, something different than Moab, and also
That's it right there.
our local.
Thanks, Manette. Appreciate it. Let's see. Anyone else wishing to make a public comment online? If so, go ahead and unmute yourself. I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Okay, commissioners. That appears to be all of your public comments for right now.
Thank you. We'll go on down to consent agenda.
Okay.
Do we do it one at a time or collectively?
Collectively, all as one vote. If you'd like, I can go through and I can explain those real fast, or if you want to.
Go ahead.
Okay. So you do have item 1, the approval of the August 3rd, 2021 commission meeting minutes. Hopefully you've gone over those. Don't see any corrections. You do have the approval of the check registers for July 30th to August 12th. In here you have an approval of a small purchase order for CARES Act cots and sheltering equipment for a total of $5,348.73. See if I can appreciate it. And that would be for our mass care sheltering locations, blankets, hygiene kits, and warming stations, part of that sheltering aspect. And on item 4, consideration and approval of an amendment to the existing contract, San Juan County Health Department tobacco contract. This is an amendment number 1 to continue those services. Item number 5 is consideration and approval of an amendment to the existing contract of immunizations, continue immunizations moving forward. On number 6, ratification and approval of the Emergency Solutions Grant, Amendment 1 with the State of Utah Department of Workforce Service, Housing and Community Development for rental assistance and homeless prevention. This contract here is ratified from our board that through our local homeless coordinating committee, they actually approved the contract. This is for a total of $50,000. This is the $50,000 grant that we've been pursuing, which you approved earlier this year, that we finally have to be able to assist our citizens here with rental assistance. We'll start marketing that here pretty quick through the local homeless coordinating committee as well. On item 7, consideration and approval of the purchase of 3 electronic message boards. These will be using CARES Act funds. Total for that is $49,248. The final one on your consent agenda item today is item number 8, consideration and approval of the Trail of the Ancients marketing and design for $1,500 to the National Travel Center. Small purchase. This is a new program that'll highlight the Trail of the Ancients. They've done this program throughout Colorado and kind of the Four Corners area. San Juan County is the last one to be done. This will provide a website that will show the areas of the Trail of the Ancients, kind of that roadmap, as well as lodging resource, kind of a TRT builder of lodging resources, as well as restaurants within the county that exist along the Trail of the Ancients for $1,500. That, commissioners, is your total on your consent agenda items.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda items.
Mr. Adam, motion,
Second.
second by Kenneth Berry Boy. Any question, comments? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed, nay. 3 in favor, 0 opposed, motion carried.
Okay, the next item, let me get there, is our public hearing for mid-year 2021 budget adjustments. This one is consideration and approval. She took my agenda away. Let's see, consideration and approval of the of resolution 2021 mid-year budget adjustments for both revenue and expenses, including salary increases for county employees. This will be presented by James. I would recommend having the presentation first, and then we can open it up for public
Do we need to go
Hearing.
into public hearing before we hear anything?
once you hear it. After you hear it, you can open that to the public hearing.
Okay?
Motion? Public hearing?
No,
Sure.
we can go into, we can have him present. and then
Okay.
We can go into public hearing.
Go ahead, James.
Okay, I'll try to go through this fairly quickly. So on the proposed mid-year adjustments, we try to be conservative on the revenue sides, and most of the revenue that's shown on here is revenue that we've already received. When we first did the budgets, we were extremely conservative in what we thought, and we've received additional revenue. I did notice one mistake on here on the total intergovernmental revenue. That amount didn't include the American Recovery Funds on that, just on that line item, because we went through the budgets without that number on there to make sure that we were balancing our budget without those funds first before we did the entire budget. But that overall total general fund revenue is correct. So would you like me to go through each of those in detail, or so the overall general fund revenue is that $2,379,918, and then on the expenses, so we've had to increase in some of those areas where we're because we were operating on such a tight budget, and with COVID, we weren't expecting travel and some of those things, but now that that's been lifted, we have some more expenses in some of those areas. So you'll notice increases in the commission budget, planning and zoning, personnel risk management, the clerk's office. The recorder's office was actually able to just make some budget adjustments, and they actually had they were able to decrease their budget slightly. The assessor's office had an increase. In the non-departmental fund, there's that large increase. That's just the American Recovery Funds. That revenue, we also put that as an expense on the non-departmental. And there's, let's see. So the election budget was increased the promotion and marketing, we did have a decrease in the expense from the sale of the airplane. So we'll no longer need some of those expenses. The weed budget, we needed to increase that, and the historical commission, the homeless committee, senior centers, Cal Black Airport, but overall, so the for the general fund, the revenue versus the expenditures, we have a total difference of the 83,347. And of that America Recovery Funds, notice that note on that second page, 300,000 of those funds we want to transfer to some of those other funds to make up for lost revenue in 2019 and 2020. Of that, 40,000 to the visitor services, 87,000 for maintenance supervisor, 87,000 for a grant manager, and so the total transfer of those funds of the American Recovery Funds would be 474,000. Moving on to the public health, they had an increase of expenses, but they still have plenty of revenue to cover those expenses. So the tort liability fund, we needed to transfer some money from the general fund over to the tort liability fund to take care of some expenses that we weren't, it was more expensive than what we'd estimated originally. The library, they made a lot of line item changes, but most of that is to track their grants more efficiently. They're going to, we created some additional line items to track those grant expenses. And so are there any questions on any of those budget items?
Commissioner, I'd like,
Adam,
you reduced the expenses because of the sale of the airplane. Does that mean the airplane's been sold?
Yes.
It has been sold and we've received that money?
Yes.
Has that money been put back into this budget or not?
So we have plans for the sale of the airplane, the funds from the sale of the airplane to go towards a building for search and rescue. So that's.
So we'll stick that in Fund 45. Fund 45 is your capital fund that you can continue to keep a capital amount in there. You don't have to zero that budget out, and it's kind of for long-term planning of buildings or facilities. And so we figured we'd just put that total sale proceeds, and I think it was over, what was it, 250,000? What was it, Megan?
250, yeah.
300?
It was about $250,000.
Yeah, I think it's around $250,000.
No, 220 actually, because
Okay.
I know that they were wanting to get to 250 for the search and rescue building, so they just fell a little short. So it was about $220,000.
See, that's not too bad for an
Right.
old airplane.
I know I was hoping we could set that money aside for the purchase of a new helicopter. Willie and I had been talking about getting a helicopter, so
Yeah. Yep.
That's already in the works.
Willie can drive. So they used to just kind of as a highlight on here what James had mentioned. We do have America Recovery Act funds that we are planning on using for salary increases this year. We haven't been able to give salary increases for multiple years, and those salary increases will be various ranges throughout the departments of the county. And then also in here, there is a replenishment of about 40,000 to visitor services. This is calling on a TRT request. Planning is still continuing to request funds from TRT. It'll be, as I look at our TRT revenue, we last year took a hard hit. About half of our TRT revenue was gone. And so we told everybody at the time that we wouldn't be sending out any TRT for 2019 and 2020. So this year, that 40,000 would be put back in to pay for Blanding's TRT if that's what you guys desire. And then obviously there's the hiring of 2 employees there. It's important to note when with the use of the ARPA funds, you can use those funds to reinstitute those staff that you did not replace during COVID. Our maintenance supervisor was one of those employees who retired during COVID. We chose not to fill it, knowing that last year we also cut all of our budgets to make up for the shortfall that we had received in lost revenue. And so we'd replace that staff as well as an additional one to help with these ARPA funds as a grant manager that will be under the administration that would help all of the departments throughout the county with additional grants. This would be a time limited position, so it would only that grant manager position would only last for those 4 years of the ARPA funds on there. Any questions or comments regarding the budget before we open it up to public hearing, or we can just open it up to public hearing, see if there's any public comments?
None.
We would need a motion to.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we go into public hearing for the purpose of considering mid-year budget adjustments.
There's a second to the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr.
Second the
Adams,
motion.
second by Kenneth to enter public, what is it, public meeting?
Public hearing.
Public hearing. There being no comment or recommendation, call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay.
Aye.
2 in favor, or 3 in favor, aye, 3 in favor. 0 opposed, motion carries.
Okay, if there's any members of the audience who wishes to make a public comment, it's mostly staff. Let's see, online. Let's let Scott come into the room. Is there anybody online wishing to make a public or a comment regarding our budget, these budget changes, or the adjustments made? Not seeing any, and nobody here in the audience is jumping up to make a comment. I turn it back to you, Commissioner, to
Okay,
make a motion to close.
exit.
Yeah, now I'd like to make a motion that we approve the resolution 2021 mid-year adjustments, including revenue expenses, including salary increases for county employees. I would propose that those salary increases be retroactive back to the 1st of July, and that they include salary increases for all of the employees as presented by James, and including our administrator and all other department heads.
Is there a second to the motion?
Sounds good. I will second that.
Okay.
I'm glad it sounded good enough for a second.
Sitting out there is for almost jumped out. Motion made by Mr. Adams to, as presented, and with the recommendation for retroactive and readjustments for all the salaries. Second by Mr. Maryboy. Any question? There be none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. How do you vote?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed by nay? 3 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion carries.
Okay, thank you for that, Commissioners. The next item on your agenda is consideration and approval of public health emergency and health preparedness program, San Juan fiscal year 22 contract between Utah Department of Health and San Juan County. This one will be presented by Mike Moulton, our interim health officer. Take it away, Mike.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners.
Good afternoon.
It's nice to be here for a change instead of virtually. Let's see. It's easier to see and hear, so that's great. So the purpose of this contract is to provide funding to continue the activities designed to develop and sustain and demonstrate the progress toward achieving the 15 public health and 4 healthcare preparedness capabilities as they pertain to the local health department's purview. This is refers to the emergency support function number 8 requirement by public health. And so this contract is for the service period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. And the Utah Department of Health agrees to pay up to $114,897 to fund these activities, these services, and the budgeting requirement for this particular contract is to make a match of 10% of the grant amount, which would be $11,489.70. I just ask or recommend that Commission make a motion to approve this contract.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Adams.
Second.
Second by
Second.
Mr. Maryboy. Question? Do we have 10% enough funds to match?
Yes, I hope so.
Good.
It's the correct answer.
What was that?
With that presentation, and is there any further question? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed by nay? 3 in favor, 0 opposed, motion carries.
Okay, next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of public health emergency and healthcare preparedness program, San Juan FY22 contract between Utah Department of Health and San Juan County.
All right, this contract is another one that's provided through COVID funds that are being spread out pretty well. And the intention of this contract is to address the health disparities that are related to COVID-19, generally around the populations that are at high risk and underserved, including the racial and ethnic minority populations, which is our whole county. And the intention is to use these funds to help provide or build capacity at the local health department to advance health equity and build capacity to address future public health emergencies from a health equity perspective. This would include more collaboration with other entities in the area that have the same goals of improving health equity and making the overall reach of public health services be more equitable for San Juan County residents. Um, the service period of this contract will go through August 2021 through May 31st of 2023, and the state agrees to pay up to $299,405, all with federal funds to support these efforts. And it may involve, I want to look into maybe finding some personnel that we could contract with, or other means of being able to gather more resources to provide these services, so that we could enhance our response to everything and mitigate health disparities in the area. And
Is there a match?
oh no, there's no match for
No
this.
match.
Right.
Make a motion, we approve.
Motion. Motion.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, Boyd motion to accept, approve. Second by Mr. Adams. Any further question or discussion? There be none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also.
It's a big one, Mike.
Yeah, it is.
Big one.
$300,000 bucks.
3-0, the motion carries.
Okay, next one on your agenda is consideration.
Just a second, I wanted to ask Mike if he'd be willing to put that into the helicopter fund.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Right. Sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah. So,
That'll get us down to Navajo Mountain a lot faster.
There you go, right there.
perfect.
He goes to Salt Lake all the time, so.
That's easier than going to Navajo Mountain, I can tell you that.
That'd be pretty though. All right, that next one, consideration and approval of San Juan County minimum performance standard for fiscal year 2022 between the Department of Health and San Juan County.
The general purpose of this contract is to provide public health services required by the state administrative code, R 380-40, local health department minimum performance standards. The service period of this contract extends through, or from July 2021 through June 30th, 2026. And the Utah Department of Health will pay up to $58,000, or will pay $58,180 to, in accordance with provisions of this contract. Just, to meet the minimum performance requirements.
Any match?
No match.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Adams,
Second.
okay, any question? There be none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed by nay. Motion carries 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
One question I have, Kendall, do you approve the public health contracts, or
I mean,
do you look at them?
yeah, so I look at
Okay.
them, but the one thing that I will say is they're similar to any other
Sure.
funding with the federal government or the state, where it's kind of a take it or leave it. There's nothing in there that's concerning to me,
Okay.
especially in light of it's a take it or leave it scenario.
I just want to make sure that you're aware and,
They all go through the Muni Code, and I
Okay.
note that.
okay. Good.
Yeah,
you.
through that
Good
new system that we purchased last year, all of the contracts, anything that has to do with legal, it goes through Kendall.
I just hope other departments are as cooperative as he is on the helicopter.
Exactly. Well, TJ's
Both
up here
departments
close.
coming up
We'll be
next.
able to ask. Yeah. So the next one is
Tammy?
consideration approval of a subcontract agreement for a Meals on Wheels vehicle.
I would like the
Helicopter.
helicopter as well, and
You
so
can
would,
borrow
so would my case managers.
We'll make it available to everybody.
That would be awesome. Better get my pilot's license. So I'm coming to you today with seeking approval for a subcontract through Southeastern Association of Local Governments. They have some funding for a Meals on Wheels vehicle. I do believe we will place this one in Bluff, and we are a subcontractor. There is no match on this, but we do have to put the money up front first, and then they reimburse us afterwards. So we would have to do a budget adjustment at some time in the near future before the year is closed.
Would you have the money to do the upfront then in your
No,
budget?
I don't
You'd
have,
You'd need the,
yeah, we'd have to do a budget adjustment and bump up that budget, and then we get the money back after we purchase the vehicle.
I'll make a motion, we approve this, especially with the amount of money we'll have in the helicopter fund, we can upfront this money pretty easily.
If we put up the front money, startup funds, do we assess interest?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion by Mr. Adams to particularly attention to the helicopter?
I don't know. The helicopter sounds good.
He's on board too.
That would get your mail there
I'll
really
second.
hot.
Mr. Mary
I'll
Moore
second it.
the motion, right?
He seconded.
Okay. Any further question? There be none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, commissioners.
Kenneth,
Thanks, Tammy.
did you say aye?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Motion carries, 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, the next item on your agenda is the renewal of the LaSalle Library lease. This one is presented by Nicole Perkins, Library Director. Nicole, are you there? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Maybe not. Essentially, commissioners, this is to renew in the LaSalle Community Center. We lease kind of a closet. It's not very much space. We've been leasing that for several years now. Total amount on there is $1,200 a year, so $100 a month to the LaSalle Recreation Board. This kind of helps provide them revenue of that leased space there. There's a commitment in the lease that we also take care of our kitchen use. The community center has a small little kitchen. So when we're in there, we have a couple cupboards that they allow us to use, and we just make sure we clean up after ourselves and keep the library clean and open to the public. This is a 5-year contract, which is essentially just the renewal of the existing contract there. Any questions or concerns?
Sorry, Matt.
Oh, hey, Nicole.
I stepped away and you guys popped up. I apologize.
okay.
Thanks for
That's all right.
Thank you for presenting.
No problem.
I'll second Kenneth's motion if he makes a motion.
Kenneth? Mr. Mayor Boy.
I'll make a motion then to approve.
Mr. Adams' motion to approve. Number 14. I'll second.
Yeah.
With that, any question? If there's none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye also. How do you vote? Mr. Maryboy?
I think you said yes.
Okay.
I heard it.
You guys are signaling each other without me knowing it. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion carries. Next.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on your agenda is consideration and approval of the purchase of synthetic 5W5 weight 40 CK-4 oil for restock. Go ahead, TJ.
This is just basically when we kind of annually or a couple times, we'll look at different prices on our oil. We've got 4 different bids there on our oil that we use, and Certified Labs came in with our lowest overall and time frame to get oil at this time for our 2 different sheds. So we'd like that approval so we can order it. We do it in bulk in big 330-gallon totes, so that's why it's so expensive.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Oh,
Any question? It's loud and clear. Excuse me. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed by nay? There being none, 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, number 16, consideration and approval of contract with William Cooper and San Juan County for 2021 redistricting services. This is kind of, you have this one item here, which shows the contract that we've been working on with our USIP attorney. A little bit more legal language, a lot more legal language than item number 17 on our agenda, which is a different contract for William Cooper. We've been in touch with Mr. Cooper several times throughout the process, and as we've consulted our attorneys and made the adjustments with that, there's been a modification to the contract that you're looking at right now. When some of the concerns that Mr. Cooper had was under the insurance, where he's not an official business. Some of these insurances and these limits didn't make sense for him. So we've taken primarily all of the language out of it upon the advice of our USIP attorney, or just USIP in general. We have kept in the requirement on here to provide valid automobile liability insurance. So there's been some adjustments to this paragraph as well as the warranty. In the warranty section of this, and mind you, this is the template behind all of this is our standard agreement that we have with most of our vendors. In here, that it didn't make sense for him to warrant the materials and equipment furnished. The only thing that he would really be providing is the mapping and that. So everything from one A, B, C, and D really didn't make sense. But items number 2 on down did, and so we kept that in there. Just kind of took out anything related to a manufacturer warranty or an equipment where he's providing the mapping services instead of just a widget or a gadget. So with that, we did get his signature on it. He was okay with all of the adjustments that we made to this contract, and we do have that in final form. And so I don't know how you want to go about where we do have, and I can just jump right into the next item on the agenda for comparison. When we look at the next item on the agenda, which is another contract, this contract doesn't have a lot of the technical terms, legal requirements that we generally have here in the county. One of them is which jurisdiction that you would battle in court in. It doesn't have any of the warranty requirements in here. It has nothing about meeting with staff or due out who owns the material at the end of the day. If there's a discretionary grandma request, there's no requirements to meet those grandma obligations that we have here in the county. And then later on, if there were any issues with it, there's really not a lot of procedural opportunities for us to fix. So with that, you also had received in your email prior to this meeting kind of our attorney's opinion as well regarding these two different contracts. And so any questions or concerns or comments?
Hey, Mac,
Commissioner.
this is item 16, right?
So on item 16, correct, is the one we're on. I just gave a brief overview of 17 as well. But
I will motion that if we're on item 16.
That's the one we're on.
I believe that you've made some changes, so I think I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'll second with a question.
Motion made by Mr. Mary Boy, second by Mr. Bruce Adams. Go ahead, Mr. Adams.
Kendall, is this the agreement that you had negotiated with Mr. Cooper, or is this a different one?
Let me make sure that, so this is the one that's number 16 on the agenda, not number 17, but number 16.
Right.
Yes, and with the changes, this one that you have in your hands that you and Commissioner Gray Eyes got is slightly different than the one in the packet because of those last minute changes. But that was all part of our work, myself, Mac, USIP, with Mr. Cooper. So yes, this is the one that I approved.
You approved it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And just, yeah, my letter to the commission was a little difficult because we were talking about two contracts, and so I tried to differentiate the two in the language, but this is the one that I approved.
Okay.
William also has signed that one, so he had approved it as well, so he was fine with that.
Okay. Any further question? There be none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye also. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion carries. Number 17.
So since you approved item 16, there's no need to have item 17.
Yeah, that was
So
my
I'll just
question.
take a motion.
Table it for indefinite.
So what do we need to do with 17?
Just table it.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We table item 17.
Motion made by Mr. Adams to table the number 17. Is there a second?
What is item 17?
It says consideration and review of potential contract with William Cooper for redistricting. So if 16 is already approved, then you would not even consider 17.
Okay.
So
All right. If that's the case, because I can't bring up the agenda right now. I'm just going through what you guys are talking about, and that's where I'm at.
okay. Are you still seconding the tabling motion on 17?
Let's see. First one. Is that the one that I sent to you, Matt?
Correct.
And we're going to table that because we've got the one that's been drafted by Kendall.
By our use of attorneys, correct. And Kendall's assistance, my assistance.
All right. I'll second it then.
Okay. Tabling motion, no discussion. Therefore, call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Aye also. So 3 in favor. Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Okay. So this next item on the agenda is consideration and adoption of an ordinance establishing and creating the formation of the San Juan County Redistricting Commission. This redistricting commission will be a tool to assist Mr. Cooper in the redistricting if so needed. We still have to, as Mr. Cooper works through the census data, we've got to make sure if there's no need to adjust the maps, if we're still within the required thresholds that were presented in the court case with Judge Shelby, if we're still within that plus or minus whatever he required in there, then we may not have to have the committee. But I think in general, it's just good practice to have this committee established in perpetuity. So this ordinance will continue on for every 10 years that we have a redistricting issue where maps need to be made. Then this committee can be formed to help oversee that process. In here, I have representation for multiple members throughout the committee. Primarily, in the ordinance, it has representation from each city, each town. So you would have a representative from Blanding, Monticello, and the town of Bluff as a member of this committee. And then you would have a member from the northern portion of San Juan County, a member from the southern portion of San Juan County, and then you would have a member of the school district. When we redistrict, it's important to keep in mind that we also redistrict for those positions on the school board. And so it's important that we make sure that we have somebody on that redistricting committee that can kind of help shape that. Now, let's say this year, if William comes back and says, hey, there's a lot of changes in our census data, and he can then present the maps through this committee, and then the committee can kind of help be a part of it. It's a little bit more transparent in operations. The meetings would be open to the public, so that it's kind of an open process where you have the vested stakeholders here in the county be a part of it, but ultimately know that they would then make a recommendation back to the commissioners, and the commissioners would then have the final say on what maps and where the district lines are changed to or redrawn to. And so this just kind of gives an overall process to help keep everything in the light of day, kind of helps him, William Cooper, formulate any questions or concerns. It's a body that he can take questions to, kind of help through the process. But I think more importantly that this gives us an option to run through these, anytime we have redistricting in the future. You also see as attached in here, the Navajo Nation put in a request for participation on this committee. And so we didn't have a redistricting committee formed yet until you pass this or adopt this ordinance to form one. But they are recommending an individual be placed on this to represent the Navajo Nation. I think with that, my only concern, and one of the things that we put in the ordinance, is the actual requirement that you be a registered voter here in the county. And so if there is Navajo representation that the Navajo Nation wants of a registered voter in San Juan County, then we could work with them on that placement. The commissioners of all of the members of this body, you get to approve of. If this is something that we need, we would begin kind of the recruitment of members to be on this this body as soon as possible, so that there's no big delay in process or mapping. Just as a reminder, we are required to have everything done by November is when everything's supposed to be finalized. So it still gives us plenty of time, where it's August, to go through, formalize this. I'm hoping that if you do approve this today, then I could begin working on the appointments and bring that to you next commission meeting for your approval of those members that will set on this commission to assist in those mapping requirements. I'll reach back out, or if there's a recommendation that you guys have for the Navajo Nation representative. For me, just quickly in my head, I could easily see somebody from the Navajo Nation Council who lives within San Juan County, that are voting members, registered voters, that could easily be on this body to represent the Navajo Nation as well in that capacity. But any questions or concerns?
So Adam?
I'm just wondering, has the county received the census data at this point?
So all the census data is out. It's being able to dive down into the census tracts have not been provided for. So as I tried to go and reach into the census tracts block group data, I couldn't get that far into it, but I haven't spent a lot of time delving into it. Something that we'll work with now that we've contracted with Mr. Cooper. I'll reach back out to him. It's kind of his responsibility to go through that and see where the changes are, to really see whether or not we go into formalizing the
But
committee.
we don't know whether there's been a major change in the census data in San Juan County, do we?
From what I've heard, and I haven't confirmed this, is there hasn't been, especially when you look at a majority minority, a reflection of that. From what I've been told, and I haven't, like I said, I haven't been able to get deep into it, that the Navajo Nation still represents about, or not Navajo Nation, but the Native Americans here in San Juan County still represent about 50.9%, something like that, of our population. So don't hold me to that number. Like I said, I haven't been able to really dive deep into that.
If you
Go
go to
ahead.
the census website and dive into it, you can look at the county level, some of the larger things, but if you try to break it down into a more community like Blanding or Monticello, or that information you can't access on their website currently. County is as low as it goes. At least for us.
The county's always been low on the threshold as far as the state and funding is concerned.
We're lower. Now our nation chapters are lower than the county.
Really?
There was some concern just with the overall census and how they were totaling up numbers. That was some of the things that I think you'll see across the board. Is there's concern of, whether obviously this was done in a COVID year. Constitutionally, the Supreme Court kind of called it and said, you guys are done as far as the census counters. But we know that on the onsite, we here in San Juan County, we're tracking statistically low participation in that census. But nevertheless, it will be what it will be, and we'll use William Cooper to help us through that. And then if we have to form a committee on drawing lines and where those lines should be, they can help us providing that advice.
So do you want a motion?
I believe for discussion
We
or
already taken it?
comments, motion, I guess, well, go ahead and motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt an ordinance establishing and creating the formation of the San Juan County Redistricting Commission.
Mr. Bear Boy, do you have a second?
No.
I'll just second it for discussion. Now, discussion. First of all, these commission, are they on volunteer?
They are. And then it would just be as a normal board that we have here in San Juan County, where we will solicit through advertising those volunteers that want to help with this process, and then bring those volunteer groups back to you for approval and final appointment. There's one thing to note in here. Initially, you would think that each city would want to have one of their council members be a part of this.
Point of order.
On here, I did restrict it on here that you couldn't be a candidate for any partisan public office or elected to a public office, or an officer of a political party, a lobbyist registered with the state of Utah. So I put some restrictions on it. I want a San Juan County resident of Monticello, but not to have a political bias tie coming from the get-go. They may have. I mean, we're not gonna vet them Republican, Democrat. How did you vote last year? And do you believe in the president or not? But I did place some restrictions on there that it couldn't be a formal standing elected position. Couldn't be the Republican Party chair, the Democrat Party chair. Hopefully, we can get some nonpartisan, non-biased volunteers for this committee to help with the mapping. The whole premise behind this is that we get a transparent process, that we have all of the towns and the Navajo Nation and the school
Point of order.
district participating in, so that it's all open and transparent process.
Point of order by Mr. Mary Boy.
Mr. Chair, yes, I believe that you as a chair and also as Mr. McDonald have always told me that there is no such thing as motioning for discussion. Either you're with or you're against. That's what I was told many times. So now we're discussing an item that's still being under consideration of either vote or non-support.
Okay. All right.
I believe,
Sorry,
Mr. Chairman, I believe that
Mr. Adams.
we cannot have discussion on an item until we make a motion and a second. At that point, we can discuss the item and try to decide how we're going to vote on it. And that's been the practice of the commission for the last 16 years.
And that's what I've been pushing, and I was told not to.
Okay. So that's the end of discussion, I guess.
Well,
Well, go ahead.
I don't think the redistricting commission is going to have to do anything unless Mr. Cooper needs their input. If the way I understand it,
That's correct.
if he doesn't need their input, there will be no reason for the redistricting commission to help him.
Call for the question, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Yay.
I also vote nay. 1 in favor, 2 opposed. That's the vote. Next.
Okay, the next item on your agenda is consideration and approval of purchase order for $23,400 using CARES Act funds for the San Juan County AED program. You had approved this amount of money, the $23,400 in CARES Act funds, but I wanted to bring it back to you outside of just a regular purchase order. This isn't on a state contract through a state vendor or anything like that. What this is done through Utah Safety Council. We belong to Utah Safety Council through USIP. It's free membership that's afforded us. They kind of help give us safety training, safety opportunities for our staff. This is one of the things that they could go through and help us with is an establishing an AED program throughout all of our facilities in the county. They provided us a cost on here cheaper than the retail value at a rate of $1,400 per AED compared to $1,900, which was retail. So just being able to buy in bulk through them and through their providers, they were able to get it a lot cheaper. They're also providing fast response kits. Fast response kits are if ever you need to give anybody CPR, this fast response kit comes with the breathing apparatus, the mouthpiece that goes over the individual's mouth. If there's a fear of transfer of bodily fluid while you're giving CPR, that they'll provide 15 of those. They'll also, with this, they'll be providing 15 of the base cabinets. They'll come and install those cabinets as well for us. They'll provide kind of a software update. They'll also monitor these systems for us. and then provide in-service training as well. And so those values, you kind of see those in that, but they're not really written in total form. Some of the value on there with the training, and that just helps us help staff implement the program, and it helps with USIP, our coverage, and cost of insurance a little bit better. Then hopefully we get them installed and save lives. Any questions?
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Bruce, motion. Is there a second? I'll second it. Open for comments.
I'll make a comment.
Mr. Adams.
This is to purchase equipment that is life-saving equipment for the county.
How many
Aye.
units?
Mr. Chair,
15 units. Where are they going to be located?
In all of our county, most of our county facilities will be able to get one in. So this building, I think I scheduled one for multiple floors, looking at the library branches, senior centers, places like that.
Okay. Mr. Mayorboy. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I believe this item and this purchase would be very necessary. It will be greatly needed, and I would support this, and I would ask to call for the question.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed, nay. Motion passed. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Next.
Okay, the next item on your agenda, let me swing down here. Let's see, we have let me find it on my agenda since it wasn't there.
Number item 20.
So consideration of and approval of a contract with Frontier Precision Incorporated for GIS services for the Recorder's Office for $23,200 using CARES Act funds as well. This one you had approved with that allocation last month. One of the things that this will get us one step closer to being online with our parcel fabric. So individuals can go online to our online system. They'll be able to look at their parcel data from a map that this company creates for San Juan County on any parcel that exists within San Juan County boundaries that we receive pretty much a tax collection off of and have data for. They'll be able to get that information like other counties throughout the state. This is a state contracted vendor as well that will be providing this service for us.
Motion.
Yep.
In order. Kidder?
Second with a question.
Mr. Adams, second. Go ahead.
How was this contract awarded, Mac? You say through the state?
Yeah, I reached out to the state. This is a state vendor. Went direct to them and asked them for their prices. We've been looking for somebody that can do this. At one time, we had some interns up at I think it was the University of Utah, one of those best colleges out there. We had them do a part of this for us. They will continue with those efforts from the interns being able to migrate our parcel data over. But yeah, with the state contracted vendor, you can go right
So we
to
didn't,
them.
did we have an opportunity for local vendors to bid on this?
No, we did not. I don't know of any local GIS
I think Jones and the Mill has that capability.
I could check with them to see if they have the fabric
That's right.
mapping.
Yeah,
And so,
I think they do, and
Yeah.
I just hate, to me, if we have somebody local, I hate to go clear out of state to get somebody to provide this service, and this vendor is from Jerome, Idaho, so that's my only question is if we had a local vendor and they just didn't get an opportunity to bid on it, I'd like to see if they possibly would have the capability to bid on this. Maybe not, I don't know.
yeah, if you want, you could make a motion to table it and I can do some further research, bring it back to you.
I'd like to do that. I'd like to make a substitute motion. I'd like to table number 20, item 20, and bring it back after Mac has checked with any local vendors to see if there's any capability or interest.
I guess I don't have any problem with that.
Okay. So there's a substitute motion by Mr. Adams to table and advertise.
Yeah,
And
we'll
which-
local.
have Mac at
and-
least check with local.
And which
vendors.
item is this?
20,
I think Jones and the Mill.
20.
Item 20.
20, 20.
Mr. Adams stated that the mill in the Jones, which is down the road, has the capability to do the work that is being SOW on this proposal. So directing Mr. McDonald to look into those. So there's a main motion by Mr. Kenneth Maryboy.
The tabled item 20.
Vote on the substitute, and then if it doesn't pass, you go back to the original.
Okay. Substitute motion is to table
Item 20, right?
item 20
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the substitute motion. How? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed? None. Substitute motion carries. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. So the main motion just evaporated.
Yeah. Pass the substitute.
So with that, go to 21 and counting.
Okay, 21 is
Anne Marie.
consideration and adoption of the ordinance amending San Juan County Personnel Policy, Section 12, work hours. These next three items will be
Yeah, these next three are all consideration and adoption of ordinances. The first two are amending our current personnel policy. The first one is to include attendance and timekeeping in the work hours section. So in a review of the personnel policy, kind of found that there's some clarification needed, like what is excessive absenteeism, and it sets the expectation of true and correct reporting of time worked. So all of the changes that were made in here are in red. Anything I took out is marked by a delineation through what was previously there. Just sets the expectations for what the work hours are. Punctual and regular attendance is an essential responsibility of each employee. So they're expected to report to work as scheduled, on time, and prepared to start working. So they're expected to remain for their entire shift. Late arrivals and early departures from absences from scheduled work hours are disruptive and should be avoided. As you get down farther, it defines what the hours are. So hours of operation for the courthouse are 8 to 5. County road works 7 to 5:30. Landfill is open from 7 to 5. Department heads, elected officials do not have the authority to make these changes, even on a temporary basis, and that's in accordance with the Utah State Code 1716-9. And then it defines what an absence is. An absence is defined as a failure to report to work. It does allow employees 3 absences a year that are excused, because things do happen. I mean, you do wake up and you just cannot come to work today. So it does allow you 3 of those a year before any disciplinary action. And then you have 3 even after that. So a total of 6 before any disciplinary action could potentially take place. And that is, we do understand this, the point of this is not to discipline a good employee for having a bad week or a bad month or a bad year. It's to help establish the rules that we hired you to do a job. We expect you to be here to do that job. Extended absences, if an employee is going to be gone for more than 3 days, we may require a physician's proof of care if it's for an illness or injury. Also, leave without pay will only be authorized for reasons required by law, medical reasons or extenuating circumstances. Leave without pay must be pre-approved by the county administrator. It will not be approved for other employment reasons. Tardiness, don't be late, basically is what that says. If you can't report, let your boss know. Breaks down your authorized breaks, that if you work 8 to 5, you're authorized a 1-hour lunch, 7 to 5:30, a 30-minute lunch. And then you get 2 daily compensatable breaks. The other change is timekeeping. So timekeeping requirements. Non-exempt employees must accurately record any time that they begin and work their end, as well as the beginning and end of their lunch break. They must sign and approve their time card to certify the accuracy of that record. And then the department head will review and approve their time prior to submitting it to the payroll. Any errors on the time record must be immediately reported to your department head, and any changes have to be approved by them. It clarifies that altering, falsifying, tampering, or altering with a time record is a form of fraud and could result in criminal charges. So it clarifies that. What is job abandonment? Anybody who fails to report to work or notify their supervisor for a period of 3 days will be considered having abandoned their job. And then it does overtime and after hours work. So overtime is unavoidable. At times we understand that, but it should be kept to a minimum. Anything over 40 hours in a week is considered overtime. Checking text messages and emails on your phone should not be done after hours, and the convenience of technology is not an excuse to work outside of those regularly scheduled hours. So it clarifies that information.
Motion.
Mr. Adams.
I'll make a second with a question.
So that remains the main motion goes to you, Mr. Mayor Boy.
He made a
Are
motion.
you?
Yes, I did.
He made a motion.
Okay. Somehow I okay. Go ahead. Mr. Adams.
Really appreciate Anne Marie's work on this. I just have a couple of, I want to tell you about a couple of incidents that have happened in the county that I haven't read through it close enough to really know, so you'll be able to tell me.
Okay.
We had an employee at one time in the county who decided they were going to start work at home at 7 o'clock in the morning. So when they came in, they had on their time card that they started at 7 o'clock at home, and not really getting permission from a supervisor or anything. And then another incident, had an employee who marked his time card. He had a conference or a meeting in Salt Lake on Friday, which I can't even imagine who schedules a meeting on Friday, but he had to stay up there Friday night and then return home on Saturday and charge the county overtime because he had to return home on Saturday. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard in my life, but that was the issue. And the other thing is, do we have a provision in here if we authorize somebody to work at home for whatever reason? And I don't know what that would be, but with COVID, that might become some kind of an issue to where we do authorize some of our employees to work at home. Is that a provision that we need to put in here? Or do we have it in there?
So it is not in here currently. On the work from home, I think that would appropriately go in like the benefits section.
Okay.
You could have the benefit of working from home with the approval of your department head or elected official. So that I'm working on the benefits section. That's kind of my next thing that I'm doing. In here, as far as the employee who started at home at 7, department heads and elected officials, it says do not have the authority to authorize a change to department hours even on a temporary basis. All of those must come from the commission. So if they're going to make that change, that's going to need to come through you guys. The travel, unfortunately, if we require them to be at that conference, we're required to pay them for their time to travel there. So there's not a whole lot that we can do.
Do we ask for any evidence of whether they're attending a meeting that's required by the
So we
county?
get the hours of the conference. Usually we get an itinerary or an agenda for that conference. So if we require them to be there, we're required to pay them to travel there and to travel home. So.
Okay, that answers my questions.
Okay.
Any further question? On absence. First day absent, second day absent, third day.
So if you
called the shot at 5 o'clock.
Is that like if they don't call?
They don't call.
If they do not call, and the policy says you have to notify prior to the start of your shift. So if they did not call before they were supposed to be there, that is considered a no call, no show. Now there is some leeway in there for like a department head. If I was in a car accident on the way to work and unable to call, Mac could make that call, whether that would be a no call, no show, or whether that would be justified.
How would Mac know you were in the accident?
Because eventually somebody's going to call him or he's going to call me to find out where I'm at.
Significant other, partner, somebody.
Whoever one of my emergency contacts on my phone after they've, calmed down and said, okay, I got to call and let them know this is what happened. Or eventually I would guess if I hadn't shown up for work, eventually somebody would call me to find out where I am.
I would be calling.
So
She wasn't here. I'm like,
Go to the top of the mountain and yell.
Yes.
Stand at the top of the mountain and yell for me. If I answer, I'm in trouble.
So if you can't get the helicopter started and you're late, then Matt can excuse you.
Then I'm going to call Bruce and ask him to come start the helicopter.
It's not your fault. It's the fuel system.
But know that as we've gone bi-weekly on our paychecks as well as those employees that have access to a computer, we have on a computerized timesheet system so that it tracks that when they're late,
They
leave late.
The accuracy in timekeeping, in talking to different employees when they're on paper timesheets, there has been a lot of incorrect information given to employees where they were told, no matter what time you're here from 8 to 5, no matter what. I'm like that, and that needs to change for our protection, for their protection, for truth in timekeeping. I mean, it has to. So that's what this policy is you need to put your hours down. Even yesterday in speaking with somebody in one of the departments, like, well, I didn't get in until 4:30. You want me to put that on my time card? Yes, I do. Even if you're scheduled to be off at 4, if you didn't get in until 4:30, you have to report that. And so we're missing a lot of hours, a lot of time that either they should be paid for, or we're paying for hours that they weren't actually there when they just stick a static time in there. So that's where the timekeeping portion has come in.
Very good.
Did I call for a question?
All those, is there any further question? If there's none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed, nay. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion carries.
This one here is consideration and adoption of an ordinance amending the San Juan County Personnel Policy, section 16 miscellaneous. And just as a reminder, you had seen all of these in our work session.
Yeah, these were presented in work session, and they have all been reviewed by USIP and by Kendall. So this one, section 16, it amends the policy just to add the providing of gifts and awards. So this is when we can provide a gift to an employee to recognize death, significant hospitalizations, and retirement. We can do it for condolences. Acknowledgement of a relative who has died will be made for the spouse and children of any San Juan County employee, and it specifies the maximum amount of those gifts is $50. And we cannot give cash, so you can send a $50 flower arrangement. You can't send them a $50 check. Significant hospitalizations for a San Juan County employee who is in the hospital for an extended stay, we can send them a gift as well. Cash is not allowed. Retirement is the one that this really kind of sets apart. Is San Juan County acknowledges the significance of retirement of its employees by providing a gift upon their retirement. The amount of the county funds for retirement are established for employees with a minimum of 5 years of service at a maximum of 5 years per year of service. So the individual department can choose whether they want to do a gift or whether they want to provide them with that in the form of compensation, financial compensation. Any reception will be at the discretion of the individual department, but the reception and the gift or check combined cannot exceed the approved amount based on the years of service. So if I work 5 years, retire, you could spend up to $50 on a retirement gift or reception. For me, if I've worked here for 40 years, you can spend up to $400. So it just limits the amount of taxpayer funds that can be spent on gifts and that type of expenditure.
Motion to approve.
That goes for County Commissioner too.
For sure. I make a motion to approve this policy as well.
Mr. Adams, motion. To approve the.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Maryboy. Any further question? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Aye also. 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay.
Next.
Got consideration and adoption of an ordinance establishing San Juan County credit card use policy.
So this one is a new one. We do not have any type of credit card use policy right now, so this is a new policy. It establishes the requirements for requesting a card, the responsibility, who's responsible for those cards, custody of the card, establishes that sales tax should not be paid when using a county card unless it is on a hotel room. Limits and restrictions, so each card is assigned a monthly, daily, and per transaction limit. A single transaction cannot be split to bypass the limits. That's also in our purchasing policy. If authorized limits become insufficient, then a department can request that is increased. Temporary per transaction or limit increases may be approved on an approved purchase order. And county credit cards have been set up to block some transactions based on the merchant category code. That can be updated if you feel like something should not have been declined. So any purchase over $1,000 still must have an approved purchase order before that purchase is made. So it does not change that. It sets forth the credit card reconciliation. All credit cards must be reconciled monthly, no later than the 25th of the month with an itemized receipt for each charge. So, and that's due to the clerk's office no later than the 25th. Unauthorized use. So an employee found using a credit card for any unauthorized use is subject to employment disciplinary process in accordance with our personnel policy. An unauthorized charge is personal, non-official expenses of any kind for any reason. Purchases considered inappropriate use of public funds. Using the county card to get cash, gift cards, or other cash equivalents, and professional services without a county agreement. Any unauthorized use may also result in criminal charges. It's a misuse of taxpayer funds. If the county card is used for personal expenditures by accident, the employee can reimburse the county, but state law requires they reimburse at 150% of whatever was charged. So if you make a $100 charge accidentally, you got to pay the county back $150. This is by state law. We cannot waive it. We cannot change it. And then they're subject to audits and reviews by the San Juan County Administrator's Office. So at any point, the Administrator's Office can choose to audit your credit card if you have one.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Adams. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any question? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed, nay. 0. Motion carries. 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
All right, thank you.
Good job, Anne Marie.
Thanks, Emery.
Appreciate it.
Excellent, excellent.
Okay, next item on your agenda, the final item on here is overnight accommodation overlay application of Curtis Wells, Bird Company Real Estate. This will be Scott Burton, our Planning and Zoning Director.
All right, so we do have Curtis is on the phone, I believe, but just an
He's online.
introduction for this. I think he's on the phone or online.
He's on there a minute ago anyway.
Right there, one of these. See ya.
The Planning Commission, we did receive this application as outlined on the map that's in your packet. That shows the outlines of where they want the overnight accommodations overlay to apply within the highway commercial zone in Spanish Valley. This property, as was brought up earlier, we have received notification that all the property owners have given Curtis permission to represent them in this application. So I don't know if you, Curtis, if you want to take it over and explain a little more about this the application. Can you hear us?
He was on there. I don't see him on there anymore.
I think
Okay.
there's 2 phone numbers down at the bottom.
If they're on the phone, how do they unmute? Is it *6?
*6. I think, yeah. So yeah, go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself unless you have a smartphone. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, got it.
Great. Okay, well, thank you all for taking the time today to review the application. And so essentially we've got a group of property owners that are clients of mine that currently lie in the highway commercial zoning that was recently rezoned there by the commission. Over 50% of the properties in this newly highway commercial zone are actually residential properties that are not allowed in the new highway commercial zone. So the application for the overnight accommodation overlay, I think, accomplishes several things. Number one, the entire property is surrounded on all sides, not including the highway, by existing overnight accommodations. So this is an area that already is in heavy operation and use by overnight accommodations. And so we think that this will bring about some conformity in the area. The property owners want, and my clients want to make it clear that this isn't one big project. It's just, a means to bring about efficiency in applying for the overlay at all properties at once. But every property owner, wants to maintain that they have the option to proceed with a site plan on their own, not in unison or in conjunction with other property owners. Also, as I previously mentioned, the highway commercial zoning, that overlaps some of the residential properties, you can't have single-story residential structures in highway commercial zoning. So in the overnight accommodations overlay, all the existing, residences in there will now conform according to the overlay. It's also worth mentioning that the transient room tax estimates on all the acreage is pretty significant. And so we see this as an opportunity to increase the tax base for the citizens of San Juan County. whereas right now it's minimal, considering the property tax and the very little transient room tax. And so this overnight accommodations overlay. It's a process that was created by this commission, and we don't see it as a problem, and we see it as an opportunity to make the area and this region more consistent with your ordinances. And so, you know, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And thank you.
Just want to go back to the public comment. Clark, what was her? I couldn't understand what she was referencing.
That she wasn't in favor of it. She didn't support the overlay district.
Well,
she was worried that there was a
I'm
hotel.
not sure if
in
she
there.
said that. She said that it
Hello?
made sense to comply with, it was within the zone.
the
She just had concerns about who all of the individual property owners were, and I think that's been identified.
I can hear you.
Hello, this is Annette Clark. Can I make a comment?
Want her to comment or to clarify? I just.
Okay. In reference to that, the blue borderline area. Any motels or restaurants or whatever?
There's not any current hotels or restaurants, but there are, I think, some of these properties have been in an operation as a nightly rentals, short-term rentals for some time prior to this zoning ordinance taking effect. So they were operating under the old zoning. And
This is a nightly rental overlay. Does it include if somebody wanted to put a motel there, they could put a motel?
So yeah, so this is a three-step process. It's an overnight accommodations overlay. So this process they identified properties where they want the overnight accommodation to apply. The second step is they would come back with a specific plan that says this is our development. We're going to build a tiny home village. We're going to build a glamping resort. We're going to build whatever that nightly rental accommodation looks like that they want to do. That will come forward. The details of that will come forward in the second step. That also comes before the commissioners.
At that point, we could approve or deny.
Yeah, you can raise concerns. You can express why you think that specific development may not apply. But at this point, it's just, hey, we want to be able to do overnight accommodations in this property, and then that gives them the okay. You can move forward with your plans, and then they bring back their plans, and say, this is what we want to do. This is the shape we want it to take. It's still highway commercial zoning with an overnight accommodations overlay applying to this property as it's outlined here.
I think what Mr. Wells is saying, that if you allow this overlay, it can create an opportunity for more TRT money to come to San Juan County.
Yeah, and if I may speak.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Wells.
The intention is to not build we are not planning to submit a site plan for a motel or a hotel to the commission if you allow us the overlay. We're looking to propose something that's in more alignment with what you see now, which are just residential nature short-term rentals. We'll have to have that, as mentioned, that site plan will have to be approved by you. But if it calms any nerves, I'm happy to provide today that you can expect not to see or anticipate a site plan for a hotel or a motel in the future on these properties.
And that becomes, as the overlay and the development agreement are in place in that step 2 and step 3, that becomes the zoning for those parcels. So you're just by approving the development they have, you're not giving them authority to later on come back and or create a hotel based on a previous approval. They would have to come back through and redo this again if they wanted to do a hotel in the future or something. But that they would be constrained with what their development plan is at the time they come in for step 2, if that makes sense. That's all you would be giving them permission for.
So,
Yeah, we would
go ahead.
we would like to make we would like to make what's already operating there conforming to your rules, and also to allow for additional opportunity in that area to generate more tax revenue for the citizens of San Juan County.
Good.
Any
Chair.
further question or statement? Mr. Adams?
Comment?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this overlay request.
Like to make a second with a comment?
There you go.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Curtis. I like the way you've elaborate over how your infrastructure of your development would be, considering the local community instead of the big franchise corporations or companies to develop the property there. And you know, as we know that this is a 2-step process, and probably approve this step, but we need to clearly note that if we're going to vote on this to approve the rezoning, I would like the developer to prioritize, protect, just like what Mr. Curtis says, rule characters in the areas, and including small places like mom and pops hotels. This is something that the local community will be benefiting from. Any other chain or franchise, that really doesn't benefit the community. And for me, it might benefit to the county, but not to the community. And there's also a concern with the groundwater, the aquifer limited, not compatible approving big hotels. That's one of the problems. And only for that reason, I like to make this comment, since I second the motion. And for the record, we will probably come back and look at the comments that I'm making, that we stand by, that I make that motion along with what I just barely alluded to. And thank you very much again, Mr. Curtis and Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further comment? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye also. 3 in favor, 0 opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and your comments, and I look forward to working with you on phase 2 on something that aligns with all of our goals. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Wells. Okay, the final item on the agenda is commission reports.
Mr. Adams.
I have a quick report. I have I have USIP meeting Thursday in Salt Lake. I'll be traveling up there to a board meeting. I'll go up and back the same day, and I want to put everybody on notice. We're going to get 1.5 inches of rain in the next 4 days. So get ready.
You didn't say snow.
No, don't say snow yet.
You have any report, Mr. Maryboy?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, I briefly just I'm running around meeting with the communities, and most of our chapter meeting, planning meetings, and other gatherings are all virtual. And thank you very much for allowing me this, and thank you for the viewing and the listener or audience of San Juan County. I will say, and I will say again, as your commissioner, I do feel bad that if we have to adjust and readjust the property taxes, and that's not your doing, and that's not your fault. You deserve to live a good, happy life without worrying about something like this. And we are right now. As you know, that this is the reason why we've been fighting to get Mr. Cooper on to where he can fix things right. The last time he was on the other side of the table, and that's how the county, and we lost a lot of money. So in this way, he's going to be helping us to make sure that we don't do that again, so we don't have to hike your tax again. So with that, thank you for not being here. Delta variant is getting really bad. I don't know if anybody's telling us, but that's really bad. And there's another one that mutated that's really catching on to young ones. So being home, wearing your mask, sanitize your hand, thank you very much, because there are people out there that have not gotten their shots. It's not our fault, but that's the life that we have as we all live together to respect one another. So with that, I will be going around to meet with the other chapter officials again. Yesterday, I met with the Anna chapter officials outside in the big semicircle to talk about several issues. One is the public safety. And I know that our sheriff, Torgerson, has been meeting with them. And we have met on some issues. With all this staying home and people are going out of whack. They're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and trying to get a hold of the police officer is getting really bad. Saturday night, a group of people with loaded rifles beat the door down to about 2 different places. And we've been trying to follow that, and the Navajo Nation public safety was very, very bad on that. County was trying. We even sent the ambulance out there to wait for the clearance, but that never happened. Up to this point in time, we're still asking the FBI to come out and investigate, but the FBI will not come on to the reservation. I don't know why. They're feds, unless if the police officer or the individual that's doing the investigation allows that. So that person is on vacation now. We're just idling, and the folks and the kids that these people had their guns on them are still shot. So that's pretty sad, and we're going to be meeting again on that upcoming meetings. So those are on the agenda. And the other topic is, of course, never-ending roads. that's one of the things that that we're talking about to see what we can do to get those roads fixed. After the rain, it was good, but now they're pretty bad. There's big holes. So mainly that's what I'm focusing on, and that's where I'm at. And I might be running up to Window Rock to meet with President Nez and some of his staff, and I requested to meet with the speaker as well. So on that, that will conclude my story. And commissioners, please stay safe, be careful, and may the gentleman upstairs look over you as you travel places. I am so scared because I have my grandkids here with me, and one of them has bad asthma. So that kind of keeps me where I'm at, and I'm staying with my mask, and I got gallons of sanitizers now. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. My report is since the last meeting, I believe it was on the 3rd, Mr. Johnson, Chester Johnson. I couldn't remember his first name for a long time until I saw a dog by the name of Chester.
The dog reminded him.
A little chihuahua.
Yeah.
Chester, oh yeah, Chester Johnson. Yeah. Anyway, well, he approached us here with a proposal and requested assistance, public safety. He just generally went through, didn't say how many people were hurt, or if there were any, or the break-in at gunpoint, and that was just totally general. So, in that sense, he must have up his sleeve that draft proposal. So, anyway, I was wondering how many incidents in the Aneth is happening. According to Mr. Maryboy, there's 2 of them. And anyway, I got a call earlier or later that week, and I had a meeting with Congressman John Curtis. He said, yeah, Monday is okay, so traveled down to Bluff on Monday, met with him, talk about Bears Ears, infrastructure, and roads also. So, and the following day came up, waiting around to attend the town hall meeting that was scheduled 6:30 on Tuesday. So, came up here, talked with Mr. McDonald, and went back down there. Attended the town hall meeting, and quite a few people. I would say about 50.
Oh, wow.
Separated distantly.
So the whole town of Bluff.
I guess.
Pretty much.
And no, Chester Johnson was there with his brother and his sister. So they were not from Bluff. And, you know, myself, I was there. Anyway, I guess he contacted Mr. Curtis. He got the floor, and he mentioned that the incident that were taking place at Aneth. And his response was, it's up to the county commissioner. Kenneth was there, and I was there also. So I said, Chester Johnson kept pushing me. He's pointing at you. So you must address it. I said, no, you have a commissioner, District 3. That guy, and I look over at Kenneth's chair, and it was empty. He had left already. So that's what happened. And anyway, that's what happened. And then I called on the following day, I believe, Mr. Davis Filford, Office of the President and Vice President. And apparently they've been informed. And so I called, and Mr. Herman Daniels also left a message. No response yet as of today. On the other hand, I don't know what the council delegate for Aneth, Red Mesa, is doing. Charlene
Sosa.
Charlene
right,
So. Right.
Charlie's,
yeah,
so.
So I didn't. I don't have the information to contact her. So apparently there's some progress being made. I hope Mr. Johnson was in attendance to those sessions, so he won't point at me way down there by in the
Different district,
the corner of District 2. Other than that, we had the San Navajo Mountain chapter meeting. Mr. Maryboy was on there regarding the roads. Anyway, the issue came up with John Curtis. We sat down that evening on the 9th, and we agreed to possibly he's going to go ahead and run with a legislation that will, and he said he's strongly supported by both parties. There's a narrowness of discussion that hasn't come together yet. So congressional legislation, that was his recommendation for the roads. So number one is that it would become, if that's passed, it's going to put it in a permanent status. No other president after that can change that. Under, executive order, anybody can change the law.
Monuments.
Yeah, on monuments, on parts and whatever. And it'll come with the financial leads. So, yeah, go ahead and run with it. Like to see that. So, I guess that has to go to public education again. Now, on the infrastructure, which was The following day, I believe it was approved 1.3. The other one is still in the back. Trillion, excuse me,
Trillion.
1.3 trillion. The other one is
1,000 billions.
proposed is 4.5 trillion, but it's been scaled down back to, I believe, 3.5 trillion. That's still in the mill down. He doesn't know how it's going to work out. And the road funding, I told Mr. Curtis, the BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Department of Transportation is using Ice Age formula. That is not fit for our today's needs, to address today's needs of roads. And I explained to him that we need to change that. Apparently, Senator Juan from New Mexico is going to introduce legislation to consider those changes. Somebody else, I think Romney is in support of those changes. So sounds real inviting, acceptable. If that happens, it'll be good. But he asked me about the my proposal between Oljeto and Navajo Mountain. I say I'm not giving up yet. Still, even though there might be opposition, I see down the road, way over there, a speck of light, which I might use as a tool. If everything comes to no deal, eminent domain, necessary. If the public wants that, then it should be. So I'm looking at in that. I know it'll split families and community, but after a while, there's a healing process that takes place over the years. So that's what I'm looking at. If they see the benefit being delivered there, then they're going to change their attitude or behavior. So that's my report, and thank you for listening. That's all.
Motion to adjourn.
That soon?
It's 2:00.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Adams, Kenneth Mary Boy, seconds. Let's have a long 1 hour, 2 hours discussion.
Perfect.
Okay.
Please no.
Accomplished a lot today. Good meeting.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also.
We are adjourned.
Opposed, nay. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much for sitting out with us.